Hello lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, welcome back to another video. As time goes by, more and more older games from the 20th century, and yes, I wrote that line to make us all feel really damn old, find themselves stranded, while others might get lucky to get ported to some more modern hardware. Occasionally, some of these older games end up getting a remaster or even remade. One of these lucky titles is the beloved classic DuckTales. Based on the 1987 Disney cartoon series of the same name, the original NES game was developed and published by Capcom, with its remaster being developed by WayForward Technologies, with Capcom still publishing. The original release went on to be an instant classic, so does the remaster live up to the standards set by the original? Beyond the obvious graphical improvements you would expect to see, it's safe to say the remaster is an extremely faithful interpretation of its original source. Graphically, the games do vary quite heavily between the two, and that's pretty obvious considering one uses 8-bit sprites while the other uses a hand-drawn aesthetic that is trying to be a modern representation of what the original cartoon would look like. Although I personally love the presentation of the remaster, its use of a 2.5D perspective here can make some of the visuals feel a little bit disjointed. And I will say that is a personal thing, more so than the game itself, but to me something is a little bit off-putting how most of the collectibles and interactable items are 3D assets while the character models themselves are only 2D. It makes them feel a little bit flat compared to everything else in the world. And I kind of wish they just made the whole game stay 2D instead. And it's not a deal breaker by any means, but I feel if they stayed 2D they could have taken full advantage of their beautiful art and absolutely outstanding animation work. The OST has also been wonderfully remade here with a lot of love and care being put into it, and with good reason, because DuckTales has arguably one of the greatest soundtracks in the NES library. It's really wild to think that we've gone from 8-bit processors to things that are tens of thousands if not millions of times more powerful. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because I really want to give props to the original composers because they had to make do with what they had. I mean, listen to this. Which just makes the hard work that was done at WayForward even more impressive. They made something that was completely faithful, yet its own thing. It really is the DuckTales of this remaster.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
In all seriousness though, they absolutely nailed the presentation, and although I do have my own personal gripes with some aspects, at the end of the day those are 100% personal, and I can definitely respect and really appreciate what they've achieved here. The only real issue I have is the fact Scrooge himself sounds a little bit muffled, almost as if he has a face mask on. It's not that the voice itself is poorly done, if anything the voice acting is actually great, but it just sounds like he's got something covering his mouth when he recorded. They even managed to give the story a little bit of a shot in the arm, which, although simple, is a big improvement over the original's rather lacking plot. And I don't mean that as a swipe at the original game, considering it released for the NES of all things. If anything, it's pretty understandable why there was a lack of plot. However, having just this little bit more story added definitely gives the game a lot more depth and makes it a little bit more worthwhile. It makes Scrooge feel more than just a money-hungry duck, and although, yes, he still cares about his money, it actually helps give a little bit more personality to him when it comes to his family. Not saying that he never cared about his family in the original, but it's definitely more evident here. So now for the real important question, does the gameplay get the same sort of love? And to put it bluntly, yes. The original game handled with some of the best platforming controls the NES had to offer, especially at the time. The remaster gives us controls that are just as fitting of this series' legacy. And although gameplay-wise things are relatively simple, given the fact it is a 2D platformer, the levels themselves are designed in such a way to make the most of it. This is because both the pogo and golf swing abilities that we have access to serve multiple purposes, being exploration and the combat. Now, combat isn't really the main focus of the series, as the enemies feel more like an obstacle rather than an outright fight. However, it's not to take away from the wonderful boss battles that we do get access to here. These have been expanded upon within the remaster, giving them a lot more overall depth rather than feeling like a run-of-the-mill NES boss. They managed to feel a lot more modern, but not take away from what the original game intended. I would have liked to have seen more puzzle elements within the game considering it is meant to be a treasure hunt, but I'm not upset that WayForward chose to stay as faithful as they could. Now, I can understand this is where some people might have an issue though, as given the nearly 25 years between the remake and the original, you would have expected the developers to add a little bit more than what they have. And sure, they've added some things, but not as much as I would have personally liked. The addition of the collectible shop is great, and being able to live out the childhood and adulthood dream of swimming through your riches is a nice touch, but beyond that, they haven't really really added anything else to the game. It's still the same levels. I would like to have seen more levels added. The game itself just isn't particularly long, as it's relying on unlockables for its replay value. And although the collectibles are worth getting due to the gameplay being a great time, a little bit more variety wouldn't have gone astray. Maybe if they added the sequel and did a remastered compilation of the first and second game, then it would have been a bit more in line with modern expectation, because unfortunately this game is incredibly short. You'll definitely be able to beat the game in under 4 hours if you're just playing on the easy mode, and for full disclosure, I did for this playthrough just so I could get the footage quicker, as, you know, I do have a life outside of YouTube, this isn't my job, but just the fact that you can die quicker doesn't really make the game have more substance to it. Unfortunately, DuckTales is just a short game. It's not a bad time by any means. If anything, it's a great time. It's the best 3 hours I've spent playing a game in a while. I just found myself wishing there was another 2 hours or so. The game itself is incredible and the level design really helps carry things, but 1 or 2 more levels definitely would have made it a more satisfying overall experience. I think if the collectibles shop just had 1 or 2 unlockable levels that maybe were prototype levels or levels developed by WayForward themselves, it would have been that cherry on top that I'm looking for. With all this said though, I do have to give some major praise to WayForward, as they came out with this during the era of HD remakes or remasters being nothing more than widescreen ports of their original titles. They were pretty much nothing more than cash grabs, and I, like many others, are definitely guilty of buying my fair share of these, but the passion that WayForward showed, the care, the time, and the effort they put in proved to the industry as a whole remakes and remasters can be more than just a lazy port. And sure, I'm probably giving them a little bit too much credit. I'm not saying they necessarily changed the industry, but I'll be damned if they don't deserve some love for their hard work. That entire team should be proud of what they've created to this day. Being able to play these games from my childhood again and play them on modern systems like it's a whole new experience is just mind-boggling. I always like the question, if you could replay any game for the first time, what would you pick? And being able to play some of these games with this fresh coat of paint is like experiencing them for the first time, and it's just wonderful. There are plenty other games I would love to see get remade and remastered. Hell, I've got a series of videos on it. But at the end of the day, it makes me want to say thank you to Capcom and especially the developers at WayForward for being so faithful to the original source material, allowing me to enjoy this game once again. So with that, lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, it brings us to the end of another video. I hope you enjoyed this dive back into DuckTales. I had a lot of fun doing this video, and it was a good time just going back playing a childhood favorite. What's your favorite NES game? Let me know in the comment section below. Mine is Arch Rivals, the basketball game, because I love it. It's stupid, it's silly, it's nonsensical, and I'm all about it. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you want to go that extra step, you can hit the subscribe button. If you want to go that extra mile, you can support me on Ko-fi from just $1 a month, like these lovely people here. And with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Bye.